propane tanks over here that I use for cooking. I don't like generators very much. That's one of the failures of my setup, is that I have water I just need to pump from one spot to another, and the nature of the pump is that it's very energy hungry, right? And I need a 12-volt pump there so I can run them off of solar. That would be much better. Over here, I'm running another generator, which is a much friendlier little generator, and I've got gasoline I have to use in it. It's less noisy, nicer generator. And I'm using that small generator to power up a battery pack inside because my solar power system is currently screwed. And all that can be fixed by anybody who knows anything about solar. But I know how to live on solar. I'm not an electrician. So yeah, there's things that got to be fixed. Real basic stuff. And, you know, I've been living off grid for 20 years. Now, I do want to point out a few things, and I want to make a whole video just on what is living off grid. Because it's not one thing, it's a wide variety of potential lifestyles. And what I just showed you over there was an example of how I'm still using energy from the outside. So it's not like if you're living off grid that you're somehow magically more green and perfect. I'm just moving where the energy is coming from. There's a very small percentage of people who are off grid who actually don't use outside energy, if any. I mean, what's that island? Like one of the most isolated peoples in the world. There's an island with some people where you can't even go there because they do not want to deal with you. Those people are off grid. Way the hell off grid. And that's really cool and impressive. And then, you know, sometimes you'll find some old guy out in the forest who you know, goes into town once a year. And that's pretty impressive. Hi, honey. Oh, you cutie baby. Do you love love? Yeah. You love love. Do you love love too? A little bit? Yeah. So, you know, even if you have solar panels or something, and even if you reduce consumption massively, as I do, I don't think anybody should really have a holier-than-thou attitude about it. I certainly don't. You know, I've got friends that fly all over the world and go on vacations and everything, and I don't criticize them in any way. We all have our part in the destruction of civilization and wasting resources. So let's not be assholes to each other about it. You know, all of my nice friends who think they're voting for someone good are actually voting for evil. They're voting for more war, oppression, mass imprisonment, and the slavery, really. But of course, they think they're good. Down here, I just watered some of these up there. These are all maguey seeds in here, and there's a screen over it to keep birds from messing with it. I think I need to water these badly. Where is my hose? There it is. What a shitty hose setup. Where's my real hose? God damn it. Oh, this is such a fucked up system in here. I need to water those really bad because I'm trying to grow all these baby magueys, right? And the thing is that in this garden reproduction, this plant reproduction area over here, it currently doesn't have any care because I don't have enough time to do everything. I can't run a nursery. You know, in this case, I'm spending time trying to keep the power on at all. I'm trying to write, trying to communicate with people, get donations, fix my own health, fix my own mental state. That's difficult for everybody, I would imagine. But this is a very sad thing that I don't have really stable. I don't have enough funding for stable labor because there's local cheap labor here. I don't have enough money for simple labor to take care of this. So I've got plants like this one that are dying. I mean, that's maybe already dead. And, you know, I haven't lost a lot. And it's always interesting to see, you know, what plants you can grow that are tough and don't need a lot. I mean, it's educational. But this could be 10 times more productive if I had a little bit of labor, a tiny bit of money. You know, I could, if I get a job online, which is one of my options, you know, I could have a person working on this 5 days a week, and each day would cost me as much as or less than an hour of my own labor. And so that's one of the reasons I don't do all the work myself. Some people imagine, I mean, people have delusional ideas about off-grid living and how it works. And it's just not like, not what they imagine. And that's something I have thought about as one of my various options on how to survive here, is to offer, you know, kind of an off-grid reality course of like, well, here's the real shit, at least one example of it, that's well discussed, that we calculate out the costs of everything, time and money, materials, ecological damage, or in this case, these damn generators, one of the costs of them is the noise, you know, is the noise I'm producing to produce this electricity. Most people, of course, in the city life, or just being on the grid, they really take energy for granted. They just flip a switch and magically energy comes on. And so what do is they waste tons of it because it's unavoidable. I mean, if a resource is easy and cheap, it will be wasted. That's the nature of things. You know, it's as true as the fact that we have all these resources in the world, and so we're going to grow the human population and our own consumption until we run out of those, and we've grown a huge civilization that then is fragile and will collapse. It's just the nature of how things work. It's the nature of how organisms work. I could get some rats and build a laboratory and prove that, although it would be kind of animal cruelty, really. I guess it'd be better to, you know, just brew some beer, and this has already been done, and show the graph of, you know, how yeast spike in their population and then contaminate their own environment and die off. It's a fairly good analogy, although obviously the human case is far more complex, but the principles are the same. Oh shit, fuck. I forgot that I'm pumping water, and water pumps really fast, and that's going to overflow. It's really fast to fill that thing. So I only use that big generator almost never, because I can survive for many, many months off of that tinaco up there. God, what am I doing? I'm probably flooding it right now. My systems are not perfectly set up. That's the actual truth. Okay. I made it back before it overflowed. Wonder how much water it has now. Very full. Just about to overflow. So that's a very full tinaco up there now, which is great. That will last me for 6 months or so. Just living here the way I do, I use very, very, very little water. So that's great. When I have other people here, they're not necessarily trained to use small amounts of water. And so I have to set up systems so that they can have some level of comfort that is better than, you know, camping, and design systems where people can have most of what they want, in fact, maybe even better. Hopefully even better than what they're used to. But they can do it without fucking sucking up all the resources in the entire world. And that should be the goal. Many people have asked me over the years, do you ever feel bad that you're giving up so much by living this lifestyle? And it's like, well, actually I am giving up a lot. But the ultimate goal is to actually create a system that is agreeable to most people and even better than regular civilization. Because when I go to the city, I just want to get the hell out of there. I mean, I like it a little bit, and there's things there I want, experiences and people, and but it isn't how people aren't really happy living that way, and they don't know it because that's the only alternative they know of. And I really believe, I have great faith, based on 20 years of doing what I'm doing and visions that I still have that are unfulfilled, that we can create a world that is better than the one we're living in. And very, very carefully selecting technology that serves us instead of us serving it. So something like, for example, I think of the solar sauna that I want to build that will use no energy, that will use all rainwater, that will not use any firewood. My current sauna is wood-fired and not well designed. I designed it. And I could make a sauna that was on all the time, always available, and people could use a small amount of water to scrub down afterwards, and their outer skin would come off. They'd be way cleaner than they could be in the city. And they wouldn't have to, it could be a social experience sometimes. It could be a quiet sauna. I could build more than one. Some of them could be really hot. Some of them could be not as hot. They could be a great warm place to go to in the cold winter nights. It's just, and the design of it isn't even hard. There would be no moving parts except some water that moves on its own because it gets hotter. So it would last for a very long time. God, all these plants are so dry out here. It's very sad. But that is an interesting thing to realize, is that, I've enjoyed this process of removing myself from most of civilized behavior, but that now is the time to carefully, with the right people, very carefully selected people who are actively contributing to the success of the project, but don't want to import their lifestyle. Because some people who want to come here, they actually want to live the way that they do now. And they want to say, well, we just want this one thing. I really need this one thing. I have to have it. And it's like, well, you're wrong. You do not need all the things you think you need. Your needs are wants. And in many cases, it isn't even really what you want. Or at least I can show them a different way. Look at this cool flower right here. Those are all little baby seeds of a succulent growing over here that really likes living in the spot. These are all the flowers of it, and those become these kind of seeds. So these are valuable seeds. I should have always microclimates where I can just walk over and dump these seeds there, and they're set up such like this one would be porous rocks. Porous rocks that perhaps have a pea garden under them. I could do experiments of different ones. We could have some that we water, some that we don't. We could save these seeds for a different time of the year and plant them then. We could do, there's a lot of experiments and to discover the one excellent way in this climate, in this location, the one excellent way to grow that plant from seed with no work. Because right now, most of that plant that I have are from clones. They're based on pieces. And so we can do genetic experiments with diversifying the genome is what I call it. I'll just dump these in this terrarium over here. Total waste. But even a small experiment like that with just one seed that requires setup and work to try 10 different methods, or 3, that would be good, of putting that seed into the right location and seeing how we can grow it with no plastic pots, no extra work, and then spread it around. Now, does that plant matter? Not much individually, as a species. If it wasn't here, not much would change, but we're trying to increase that biodiversity, and that's important for an unknown future, whether it's with climate change or whatever, and maybe the plant does actually have uses for us, but that's not the important part. And part of this is just creating enough microclimates, and in some cases the same set of microclimates could be useful for a variety of seeds. Like if I create in the ravine a bunch of places and I make a desert, right? And I make just all these different environments, then if we're always dumping seeds, because that's going to produce thousands and thousands of seeds, just that one flower, one flowering. And if I can then just dump these seeds in there with, not knowing if it's going to work or not, but investing as little as possible, very male attitude, I suppose. And then hopefully they'll find places that are naturally, probably not naturally since we created them, but that they germinate and grow. And all we have to do is notice the successes. We'll say, wow, that plant grew here. Well, guess what? Now we know where to do that. So the results of that very complex, difficult experiment are that then we have a solution that really serves well. And there's ways we could do that better with augmented reality and tracking of our experiments, so that we don't have to remember them all. We don't have to write them all down, but we can just catalog what we're doing when, and then notice that something succeeded. And at that point, we have solved a problem. Every plant's like a puzzle, and we can have an infinite amount of that plant. Rosemary would be a good other example. I have a couple kinds of rosemary, but more of one, just because I've reproduced it more. It can reproduce in the right time of the year with direct in-ground cuttings. Pieces of the plant you cut off, dip it in rooting hormone, stick it directly in the ground, it gets rained on, it puts out enough roots to barely survive the next dry season, and the next year it puts out more roots and establishes itself, and maybe it dies. I should crowdfund a thing for surgery on my nose, just so I don't have snot in my videos, because I'm sure it's gross to somebody, but I really don't care. Be as grossed out by me as you want. I don't matter. But listen to the ideas, because they're good ideas. And so rosemary does not reproduce on its own here from seed. The seeds fall on the ground, and the bees love it, and everything's fine. It's a very useful plant, and I have, a couple hundred probably at this point, and I might as well have 1,000. Maybe I can make rosemary oil with it. People, of course, can use it to cook with, which nobody does around here, but I like it. I like rosemary. And so all of mine are clones. They're all pieces of another plant that at some point I purchased, and I only have purchased a couple times, rosemary. So is it worth it to figure out then how to raise rosemary from seed? I would say yes. And that's another case where we could collect a seed and dump it into a wide variety of microclimates. In fact, I could just call this the Germination Microclimate Project. And it would be to specifically make places which have different amounts of sun, different amounts of moisture, different amounts of surfaces. Like that one over there, that succulent, it actually wants to fall on rocks. It doesn't even want soil. It wants to fall in the shittiest spot you can imagine. And that's proven by the fact that I have them growing right down there in a rock stairway. Like, that's the worst place you can think of. And it's growing. And that means that if that plant right there was even located in that microclimate that is successful, I mean, in this case, I already know pretty much. I don't have to do 10 different experiments on it. I could have a rocky microclimate